It's never too early to start taking a look at the 2024 Heisman odds, even if the Heisman ceremony isn't for another 11 months. But hey, it's the end of January, and what else are we going to talk about? The latest Heisman odds for the 2024 college football season were just released, and upon a quick glance, they are something. The college football season doesn't kick off for about 7 months, but let's take a look at who the betting market has as Heisman favorites at this point in the year. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel, so make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'm not going to be going too in depth and taking a look at every player and what their odds are, but we are going to be taking a look at which players are inside the top 10. When it comes to number 10 on the list, we actually have a 4-way tie. Arizona quarterback Noah Fifita, Notre Dame quarterback Riley Leonard, Miami quarterback Cameron Ward, and Texas A&M quarterback Connor Wigman. All 4 of these players are currently 20-1 to win the Heisman. Overall, I think that's fair, but there's one player that I would actually have a lot higher on this list, and that's Arizona quarterback Noah Fifita. I've talked about him in recent weeks with all the news surrounding Arizona and their coaching staff, but I'm really high in Fifita and Arizona for next season. They're likely going to be the best team in the Big 12 next year, and he has a chance to be the best quarterback in the entire conference. As an Arizona State alum, this kills me to say it, but if the Wildcats go undefeated next year or lose 1 or 2 games, Fifita is probably going to be right there in the Heisman discussion. We have another tie in odds, but this one's a 3-way tie at 18-1. Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart, Oklahoma quarterback Jackson Arnold, and LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. These are 3 quarterbacks where I could see a variety of different outcomes in 2024. We've seen what Jackson Dart can do while at Ole Miss. This past season, he was great for the Rebels as he threw for 3,400 yards with 23 passing touchdowns. He also added 400 yards on the ground with 8 rushing touchdowns as well. With his 3rd season at Ole Miss, I wouldn't be surprised if he improves on those numbers once again. He's the only veteran in this group, as you have 2 guys that don't have a lot of playing experience. Jackson Arnold was the backup quarterback at Oklahoma this season, and he's going to be the starting quarterback next year for the Sooners. We saw him in mop-up duty for majority of the season, but he did get the start against Arizona in the Sooners bowl game. He threw for over 350 yards with 2 passing touchdowns, but he did throw 3 interceptions. He was regarded as one of the best quarterback recruits of his class, so there's going to be a lot of hype surrounding Arnold and Oklahoma next year. The final one is Garrett Nussmeier, who spent the last 3 seasons as LSU's backup quarterback. He was the starting quarterback in their bowl game against Wisconsin, and he looked phenomenal. He threw for 400 yards with 3 passing touchdowns. We've seen a number of pretty good quarterbacks come out of LSU the last couple of years, so there's a solid chance Nussmeier is the next great one. Up next at 15-1 is Tennessee quarterback Nico Imaliava. Like a lot of other quarterbacks on this list, we haven't really seen a whole lot from him. He appeared in 5 games this past season for Tennessee, but again, it was mainly in mop-up duty. He did get the start against Iowa in the bowl game, and he looked fantastic. He threw for 150 yards with a passing touchdown while adding 3 touchdowns on the ground as well. He was also considered to be one of the top quarterback recruits of his class, so there's going to be a lot of hype surrounding him as well. Over the last couple of seasons, Tennessee has had one of the better offenses in all of college football, but Imaliava is arguably the best quarterback Tennessee has had during the stretch, so he could put up some really great numbers and have Tennessee be a top 10 team once again next year. We have a 2-way tie with 12-1 odds featuring Alabama quarterback Jaylen Milro and Ohio State quarterback Will Howard. This one seems kind of gross, as I don't like how high the odds are for both of these quarterbacks. Jaylen Milro did finish 6th in the Heisman voting this past season, but I don't think he's going to replicate what he did this past year. He threw for just under 3,000 yards with 23 passing touchdowns while adding 500 yards on the ground with 12 rushing scores. With Nick Saban gone and Kalen DeBoer coming, I'm not quite certain how this Alabama offense is going to look next year. Now, they could be a lot better, but they also could be a lot worse. So I think it's too early to call, and at 12-1 odds, I think that's just too high for Milro. The same could be said for Will Howard as well. He comes over to Ohio State after spending 4 seasons with Kansas State. Howard was pretty decent while with the Wildcats, as he threw for 2,600 yards last year with 24 passing touchdowns and 9 rushing touchdowns. but I don't think he's necessarily the answer for Ohio State. He's probably going to have a good season if he's named the starting quarterback, but I don't think he's going to put up the numbers to have him as one of the Heisman favorites. Again, I could be wrong, but at 12-1 odds, I just don't like that at all. We move to our top 3 with Oregon quarterback Dillon Gabriel having 10-1 odds. Although Dillon Gabriel has been around for quite some time and he's put up remarkable numbers in his career, he's actually never finished inside the top 10 of Heisman voting, and that actually seems freaking insane. I mean, just this past year for Oklahoma, he completed a very nice 69% of his passes while throwing for 3,700 yards. He also had 30 passing touchdowns with only 6 interceptions. He added 400 yards on the ground and 12 rushing scores as well. I mean, he finished 5th in the entire country in total touchdowns responsible for. He also finished 8th in the country in total yards responsible for as well. And yet, he didn't finish top 10 in Heisman voting. And you look at some of his previous seasons with UCF, when he was throwing for 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, he wasn't receiving Heisman votes as well. I mean, over the course of his career, Dillon Gabriel has thrown for 15,000 yards with 125 passing touchdowns. He heads to Oregon now, where we saw Bo Nix turn into one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football. We've seen Dillon Gabriel light up the stat sheet for a number of different programs, but you can make the case Oregon is going to be the best offense he's ever played with. Our top 2 is actually a tie between Georgia quarterback Carson Beck and Texas quarterback Quinn Yates, as both players are currently plus 750 to win the Heisman. I'd have to go back and take a look at previous years, but I don't recall there being a year where the favorite to win the Heisman was at plus 750. It seems like every year the favorite is something like plus 300, maybe plus 400, but plus 750 being the number 1 spot is pretty shocking. And overall, I think these are the 2 right quarterbacks that should be the favorites. Entering the 2024 college football season, there isn't a consensus player that is by far the best player in all of college football like there's been in years past. We'll start with Quinn Yates, who returns to Texas for his 3rd season. Overall, it's been a pretty underwhelming start to his career considering he was one of the top recruits in college football history. This past season, he completed 69% of his passes while throwing for 3,500 yards with 22 passing touchdowns. He also added 5 touchdowns on the ground as well. Those are actually pretty solid numbers, but again, it just feels like Quinn Yates has been very underwhelming up until this point in his career. But he returns to Texas, who just played in the college football playoff. They return a lot of talent, and they've been killing it in the transfer portal as well, so they're probably going to be one of the top favorites to win the national championship next season. If Quinn Yates is able to live up to the hype and Texas can reach the playoff once again, I don't see why Yates won't be in the final Heisman discussion. If I had to place my way too early Heisman bet right now, I would actually bet on Georgia quarterback Carson Beck. I don't think people realize just how good he was this past season. He put up fantastic numbers for the Bulldogs, but he somehow didn't finish inside the top 10 for Heisman voting. Overall, he completed 72% of his passes while throwing for just under 4,000 yards. He had 24 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. I mean, he led the SEC in passing yards and was 3rd in the entire country. His passing efficiency rating was also top 10 in college football. He looked great for Georgia this past season, and I think there's a chance he can be even better next year. Georgia's probably going to be the early favorite to win the national championship, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finish the season undefeated. If they do that, and Carson Beck is able to improve his numbers slightly from this year, then he should be the Heisman winner. So that wraps it up for this way too early edition of 2024 Heisman Trophy odds. If someone were to give you $100 right now and you had to place a bet down on your Heisman Trophy winner, who would you be making a bet on? I'm sure a lot of these odds are going to change in the coming months, but as of right now, these are what the favorites currently look like. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm going to be posting videos all off season, so if you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It really helps out with that YouTube algorithm, and it helps share this video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.